And this comes from my acquaintance with this particular group, comes from my experience as a geography lecturer, when I was teaching rural development in the third world and village level change and things like that, and sort of integrated development involving the various aspects of basically trying to lift levels of poverty and exploitation in rural parts of the non-Western world. And I wrote away to a group called World Vision. And World Vision sent me a very large package of extremely interesting, well-illustrated multimedia presentation about village-level development. And it all seemed very credible, and it seemed that World Vision was doing a great deal. And I was very impressed at that time. I started looking at things a little bit more deeply, and the theme of this talk basically is that things aren't what they seem. And if I could just give you an example of this one agency and an insight into my learning process. Now, World Vision basically helps children in poor countries deal with poverty by getting millions of ordinary people to donate money to a sponsorship program. But, well, World Vision began in Korea around 1950 as a Youth for Christ organization, backed by Billy Graham. World Vision became the main evangelical intelligence gathering agency with the establishment of Missions Advanced Research and Communications, MARC, in 1967. World Vision is a sister organization, it's the official term, a sister organization of the family, or the Fellowship Foundation, a secretive political elite in Washington, D.C. World Vision's one-time chairman of the board, John Hinckley Sr., was an oil man whose company was bailed out by George H.W. Bush, another oil man. World Vision worker John Hinckley Jr., John Hinckley Sr.'s son, shot and nearly killed Ronald Reagan. World Vision worker Mark Chapman shot and killed John Lennon. World Vision cooperated extensively with the CIA during the Vietnam War while it was managing the refugee population. World Vision helped settle Hmong refugees from Laos in the late Jim Jones settlement in Jonesville, or Jonestown rather, Guyana. World Vision also managed Honduran and Cuban refugee camps where pro-US fighters were trained in the 80s under Reagan. World Vision helped manage the Sabra and Shatila camps in Lebanon. World Vision is closely involved with the highest levels of the US government and reports regularly to the US Congress. World Vision's president, Robert Seipel, became the United States' first ambassador for international religious freedom under the 1998 International Religious Freedom Act passed by the US Congress. World Vision took control of humanitarian operations in northern Iraq on behalf of the State Department from 2003 to 2006 on a $30 million contract. World Vision, through its Institute for Global Engagement spin-off, negotiated Vietnam's entry into the World Trade Organization on behalf of the State Department. World Vision, through its International Justice Mission spin-off, acts as human rights enforcer for the State Department. World Vision's annual budget, at about $2 billion, is equivalent to the United Nations budget. World Vision is the largest handler of food aid, or the largest shipper of food aid in the world. And World Vision works closely with Chevron, GM, Nike, Barrick, Gold of Canada, Hasbro Toys, and more than 200 other corporate partners in its aid programs. So things aren't quite what they seem. Now, in my book, the one mentioned by Muhyiddin, I argue that since World War II, there has been a sustained project in the US to incorporate the evangelical movement into government, in particular as a force in foreign affairs. Now, this project has been at the behest of secular interests, both corporate and political, and has been driven by both the need for capitalism to expand and the passion of an evangelical minority of United States Protestants, particularly Baptists and Pentecostalists, both which are strongly American forms of Christianity. The organization of the project involved a handful of secretive elite groups, such as the Fellowship Foundation and the Fellowship of the Burning Heart, which is a fellowship basically concerned with evangelization of schools in the United States, ostensibly begun by Henrietta Mears. Also by the CIA and the State Department. A number of United States presidents, including Reagan and the two Bushes. A lengthy program of debate and reorganization known as the Lausanne Movement from 1974 onwards. And many hundreds of evangelical agencies, especially in the early stages, those centered on Billy Graham. Now, much of the planning was in secret. One of the main tasks of the project was to repackage Western evangelization for a post-colonial world by making Christianization more culturally contextualized, but still a faithful surrogate of Westernization. And by establishing a global structure of management and control for church planting and church growth. More generally, the task was to modernize Christianity as a tool of imperial control. To meet this task and to more formally integrate the secular and the religious,